This is the 5th time I woke up during lunch break. I endured the severe pain and tried to breathe hard. I knew very clearly that I had entered the doomsday loop. I am a junior high school class teacher. The first 4 times, my family and I died tragically. This time, I want to survive. 1. Teacher, can we go out to play during the afternoon activity class? You are going to take the high school entrance exam, and you are still playing. Go back to do your homework. Muscle memory made me recover instantly. This group of bastards can always find my anger point accurately. I lay in front of the classroom for a while, looking at these lively faces in front of me. They were not in school when I died in my previous life, and I don't know if they survived in the end. 10 minutes later, the class bell rang, and I quickly collected the recliners and walked out of the classroom. I have to hurry to find my dad, the principal. Dad, the world will end in 3 days. What's wrong? You didn't pass the test against Mr. Lee, next door again. Dad, I'm not kidding, it's really the end of the world. Did the parents of your class report you to the Education Bureau? Although I'm usually unreliable, can you please not treat me like this? Hee too, Dad, there's no time for nonsense, I've repeated it 5 times. There are 10 minutes left, the Education Bureau will call you, and the notice of prohibiting makeup classes in summer vacation will arrive soon. You are getting more and more creative in your excuses to trick me into going out to buy a bag. In the second life, our family will die in a hotel on Hainan Island. You're going too far. Really, if you believed me that time, we would really die. Too, the phone rang suddenly, and the old man glared at me. After hanging up the phone, the old man stared at me for 5 minutes. Shong-an, confess, and you will be treated leniently. Dad, I didn't do anything. How do you think I know the decision of the Education Bureau? Have you contacted your senior brother Ling? I was stunned. This old man has many students all over the world. There are actually several people in the Education Bureau who were taught by him. Those senior brothers are very nice to me. He suspects that I got the news in advance. Don't panic, stay calm. This old man is amazing. His reaction is different every time. Dong, someone knocks on the door. Got it, I hurriedly said, it's my brother who knocks on the door. Well, you should know the sound of your brother's footsteps. My brother is also here to ask you for money. He and his girlfriend are getting married. I advise you not to agree. That girl is a troublemaker. In the 4th life, our family was killed by her. Haha, if you can get rid of Lola, I will buy you a new bag. My dad doesn't like my brother's girlfriend, Jiang Lola. Lola is beautiful, gentle, and as beautiful as a little princess. The reason why my dad doesn't like her is very simple. Lola is not good at studying. She liked my brother when she was in school, and she pestered him for so many years, and finally caught up with my brother, a top student. My brother came in, and he was shy and didn't know how to speak to my dad. Brother, put your thoughts aside for now. The end of the world is coming, let's talk about business first. My brother was stunned by what I said. Sister, I won't give you the money even if the world ends. That's what Lola and I need to live. I was so angry, he thought I was going to cheat him of his money. Yes, if you don't listen to me, we will all die. We can't spend the money you saved. My brother was shocked by what I said. I don't know if he was angry or scared, he couldn't say a word. You'd better believe me. There will be a package for you in the mail room later. Don't give it to Lola. Open it first. That durian is rotten. Go to buy guoyin to buy something good when giving something to a girl. Don't be stingy. My brother looked at me with a horrified face, then glanced at the text message and ran to the mail room frantically. 3. I turned around and said to my dad, Dad, my mom won't like the clothes you bought for her. It's a fake, and there are stains on it. Call my brother now and we can get it back together. After a while, the 3 of us stared at the 2 couriers. Tell me, what did you dream about? My dad took a sip of tea and said to me. Low temperature, super low temperature, shortage of supplies, social order collapse. In the first life, you all went home, and I was stranded in school and froze to death. In the second life, I thought the first time was a nightmare, and subconsciously wanted to go to a warm place, and then our family froze to death on Hainan Island during a trip. In the third life, we went back to the villa at home to stock up on supplies. But my brother insisted on looking for Lola and died outside. We were worried about my brother, so we went out to look for him together, but our down jackets were stolen and we all died in the end. The last time, I took Jiang Lola with me, but she was so kind that she insisted on saving her best friend. As a result, my best friend told her boyfriend, and they killed us all. Silence is Cambridge tonight. We won't be that bad, will we? Dad asked first. Don't blame Lola. My brother never gets to the point. I look at the sky. I don't want to talk to anyone, I want to find my mother. I failed several times. This time we have to brainstorm. I'm going to class. You two should think about it carefully. I went to class. When I came back, my mother, father and brother were waiting for me obediently. My mother stood in front of the whiteboard, on which all the things that needed to be bought were listed. I was too lazy to look at it. I secretly poked my brother. Mom, do you know? My brother gave me an okay gesture. You two, listen carefully. I'm assigning tasks. Whether you can survive depends on our next step. My mother knocked with a small teaching stick. Yes, you go ahead. The 3 of us were as obedient as elementary school students. We won't leave. We'll live in the school. The three of us almost dropped our jaws. There were too many people in the school. It was easy to be attacked. It was not a good environment. The school warehouse has a lot of rice, noodles, oil, dry goods, meat, and eggs, and the supermarket has a lot of goods. These things are not easy to transport, and there is no place to put them if they are transported away. So it's best to stay in school. All we have to do is send the students and teachers home. How do we solve the security problem? I asked. We have installed electric grids to prevent students from escaping. And our school is very remote in the countryside. There are no houses around. There is only one road to drive here. Digging up the road can prevent others from driving here. More importantly, our school is in the countryside. Many people in the countryside have stored food, so we are not conspicuous. We can survive longer. My mother always has the final say in my family. We do what she says. Old Shung, send all the students and teachers home. We have stockpiled a lot of rice, flour, oil, and salt. It will be enough for us to eat for 3 years after the students leave. Son, I have approved the second classroom of the ecological park you proposed some time ago. Buy whatever you need yourself. Vegetables are not easy to preserve, so it's up to you. Daughter, the entertainment is up to you. You go and find a way to solve our psychological problems. You can take care of these. Husband, logistics is up to you. The medicine in the school hospital should be replenished, as well as the coal in the boiler room and the liquefied gas in the kitchen. Mom, I think you are a bit careless. Why do I feel that it is more troublesome for others to stockpile supplies than us? Don't we have everything? There will be water and power outages later. We have generators and solar panels. We also have boilers and dozens of tons of coal. We also have biogas tanks and so on, and we can pump groundwater. Why don't I know anything? Suddenly, I feel that I died unjustly in my first life. We are a boarding school. We even have a bathhouse and a septic tank. My father looked proud. Our tower is high enough to be used as a lookout, and there is a full set of astronomical telescopes on it. Although it's just a toy, it's enough to observe the enemy. Our walls are all connected with high voltage. As everyone knows, we were bigger than this prison back then, and we were afraid that students would climb out to surf the internet. Who knows that children don't go to internet cafes now, they all use mobile phones instead. My mother looked regretful. I suddenly woke up. Except for the first life, I didn't give them time to react. I just tricked them away. I read too many apocalyptic novels and blindly believed that I should stay in the villa. I didn't know that my school was the perfect place. 5. We did it right away. That night we contacted people to stock up on supplies. My mom also contacted the engineering team to repair the school. They were all old acquaintances who came every year. My mom doubled the price and asked them to come overnight to work overtime to repair and reinforce the wall, saying that school was in a hurry to start. They also repaired the high voltage electricity on the wall that had been in disrepair for a long time, and redesigned it to prevent it from being cut from the outside. My mom also spent a lot of money to replace the iron gate with a thicker one like a prison, and the gate of the guard was also double-layered. My dad went to notify the parents to take the students home overnight. The teachers assigned a lot of homework to the students to prevent them from going out to play. They also forced the students to take away their quilts and mattresses, under the pretext of going back to dry them, and by the way, all the newly ordered winter school uniforms and jackets stored in the warehouse were distributed to the students, hoping to help the students a little. My brother is trying to find a way to build an ecological park. The school already had chickens, ducks, and pigs that he planned to raise, and the vegetables he chose were high in vitamins and easy to grow. The pomegranates, apples, and pears in the school orchard were all bearing fruit, and he was also planning whether he could move them into the house. There were also various soilless cultivation equipment that had been contacted, and my brother notified people to deliver them all tomorrow. The school also had a large number of containers and foam boxes that could be used for planting. The key was that there was no soil, so in addition to buying it, my brother simply took the boys in the interest group to dig soil together in the playground, and then moved it to the ecological park. My mother asked me to organize students to buy out the supermarket, so I held a big sale in the supermarket. All food, especially bread and biscuits, were cleared out at a big sale. Some braised eggs and other things were left, which were half sold and half given away, hoping that these things could help students get through the difficult times. I can't save everyone, but I want to do my best. I called the supplier again and bought a large batch of goods, including various instant noodles, biscuits, self-heating pots, chicken feet, spicy strips, hot and sour noodles, snail noodles, self-heating rice, and other things that can satisfy your appetite without turning on the stove. The supermarket warehouse was filled with them that night. I also bought a lot of chocolates, candies, and desserts. Especially canned fruits. I stocked up 3 classrooms. I may not be able to eat fresh fruits in the future, and these are good helpers to satisfy your cravings. I also called to ask for a batch of compressed biscuits, various canned fish, canned meat, and canned vegetables. Although my mother said that the food stored in the canteen warehouse is enough for us, I still stocked up 1,000 days of food for one person a day just in case. Even the dealers were shocked. I used the excuse that we were going to have a military training summer camp next week, and wanted the children to take dry food for a day of hiking. A certain dong said that no matter how hard it was, the children would not suffer, and they would Definitely deliver it tomorrow. I wanted to buy water, but my mother said that the school's water station still had 500 barrels of water. Just in case, she also contacted someone to buy 10 water purification equipment. They will be installed on time tomorrow. After I finished my work, I quickly called the bookstore and bought a lot of books on the pretext of expanding the library. It's not easy to do paper media now, and I don't have any requirements for books. Soon. The books were brought in overnight, and I asked someone to put the books in the library. After a careful look, I was very satisfied with all kinds of online novels, world classics, and various exercise books. Just as I was about to go back, I ran into my mother asking the quilt factory to send a large number of new quilts, down quilts and space quilts, as well as various types of cotton clothes. Fortunately, we are an old industrial city with all kinds of factories. Although our school is remote, it is only an hour and a half away from the city. It's really a phone call to buy anything. It's not a big deal to buy in large quantities under the guise of the school. I felt that I should just lie down and leave everything to my parents. 6. My brother is back, and he brought a bunch of seeds from the town seed station. The school is basically empty, and those who live nearby have all gone home. Only a few who live far away can leave school tomorrow. According to statistics, there are 40 students who cannot leave school. Oh, my brain is big again. These students are not many, but not few. They are all students who repeat the 3rd grade of junior high school and live very far away. Some are from other provinces. Even if their parents come to pick them up, it will be the day after tomorrow. If they leave by themselves, they will definitely die. My father and mother grumbled for a while and delegated the task to me and my brother. Put these students in one class and notify their parents not to pick them up. We will take these students with us. You two are really crazy. There are more than 40 people. Looking at all the Doomsday articles, no one dares to do this. If these people don't kill me, I will take your surname. You already have my surname. Are you going to watch them die? I have taught students all my life. I still don't believe I will die in the hands of students. Dad. Who would work in the Doomsday? The old man ignored me and walked away. I couldn't sleep all night, and my brain was in an extremely excited state. 7. The next day, Lao Zheng from the vegetable market sent us a lot of vegetables, meat, eggs and milk. I called Lao Zhou to find out where to get pre-prepared dishes and quickly ordered a large number of various pre-prepared dishes that can be stored for a long time. After all, the canteen chef is going home, and it is very likely that my mother and I will cook the meals during the summer vacation. My brother also bought a bunch of chickens, ducks, fish and piglets in the name of the 2nd biology class. I was stunned when I saw the aquarium filled with grass carp and bighead carp. I really didn't know if they could keep them alive. I hurried to the library to see if there was any postpartum care for sows. After all, we would have to raise the big fat pigs in the cafeteria ourselves. In the evening, the weather started to snow slightly, and I gathered 40 students together. They found it very novel to have snow in July, and they played and made noises without restraint. If I remember correctly, the temperature will drop sharply tomorrow night. Uncle John from the logistics department and Aunt Leo from the infirmary are a couple, and they are both good friends of my mother. My mother didn't let them leave, and their son who was at home on vacation was also called by my mother. No one knows that brother Zhang is actually my boyfriend. Hush, don't tell him, he doesn't know yet. My brother and I gathered 20 girls and 22 boys from 2 classes in the dormitory of the old building. My father and Uncle Zhang started the boiler in advance to heat the old building. It was late at night, and the students all went to sleep. I was wrapped in a down jacket and a military coat, patrolling the girls' dormitory. The temperature inside the house was over 20 degrees, and the temperature outside had reached -10 degrees. This temperature is not uncommon in the north, but it is very abnormal in July. Fortunately, the students were carefree and slept soundly. 8. I woke up all the students on time at 6 o'clock the next morning. The snow outside was almost 10 centimeters. I didn't expect that this disaster would come early. My brother and Zhang Lula were fully armed to sweep the snow, and my brother still brought her with him. Morning, Sister Lula. Morning, Alan. You go to see the children, we go to cook. My brother looked at me a little embarrassed. I ignored him and took the students upstairs to study. The study room has been moved upstairs, the cafeteria is on the 1st floor, the kitchen is in the basement, the 2nd floor is the dormitory, and the 3rd floor is the classroom. The days are still going on in an orderly manner. The students' mobile phones are all in my office. I remind them to call their parents. But I don't let them go online. I want to give them a piece of pure land at school. Parents are helpless. The temperature has dropped across the country and heavy snow has fallen. Parents can't pick up their children. Meteorological experts are also studying various reasons. Various versions of explanations are emerging online. All planes have been paralyzed and trains are difficult to operate. Power lines in many places have been broken and are facing the risk of water and power outages. The north is fine. Those areas in the south that don't snow all year round have sensed the danger and started to repair desperately. However, the roads across the country have been blocked by heavy snow and traffic is basically paralyzed. I put down Douyin after watching it for a while. People have gone from excitement last night to fear today. It is almost impossible for the world to cool down at the same time. Now, the people of Hainan Island have begun to buy minks from local people in northeast China. Douyin keeps showing people who have been frozen to death in the south. The temperature in various places is around -10 degrees. Without warm clothes, people will really die. The original repair staff did not come today. I guess it's not good here. My brother, my father and I took all the subjects. The review plan was going on in an orderly manner, and the test papers were still being printed. The biggest worry for students must not be the cold, but the quadratic function. 9 after a week, the snow still didn't stop, and the temperature had dropped to -40 degrees Celsius. We couldn't leave the boiler room anymore. I have been paying attention to the internet these days, and it is a mess outside. Most parts of the country can no longer maintain electricity and water supply, and the internet is not very stable. People are desperately hoarding food. Elderly people in the north are looking for sleds and non-slip shoes in the basement. Traffic is completely paralyzed, and things outside can't be transported to the city. Supermarkets are basically emptied. Various internet celebrities are complaining, and the doomsday theory is spreading rapidly around the world. The government is trying hard to stabilize the mood of the people. When you open Douyin, you will hear people complaining that the supplies can't keep up. All kinds of food are hyped up to sky-high prices, the crime rate has risen sharply, and the public security system in some places has been completely paralyzed. The school has become an isolated island, and no one has come since the next day. We also closed the door tightly and took turns to guard the surveillance at the door. The power went out, and Uncle Jan started the generator. Uncle Zhao's son is really a little genius. He connected the boiler to the generator so that we don't need gasoline. The students' eyes were full of fear, and many students wanted to go home. I didn't know how to tell them that their parents might never come to pick them up again. Their phones also had no signal yesterday. So I held a swearing-in ceremony for the high school entrance examination. We must overcome everything and work hard. If others don't learn, we will learn, so that we can get the first place in the exam tomorrow. If others don't do it, we will do it. Overtaking on the curve is the best. We must stand out from the crowd in the high school entrance examination. The students' shouts shook the sky, as if they had driven away the darkness. I led all the students to work. Cooking for 50 people every day is really too much for my mother, Aunt Liu and Zhang Lola. I simply arranged a duty schedule. Every day, 5 people went to the canteen for social practice, 5 people went to the ecological park to help, and 5 people cleaned the toilet. The remaining 20 people collected the garbage and put it in the crusher or burned it in the boiler, and repaired the teaching building, swept the snow, set traps and other work. In addition to doing homework in class every day, we also had to work for an hour before and after meals. It's the end of the world, so it's reliable to have something to do. 10 John Lula suddenly told my dad that she also wanted to go to class. She was going crazy and wanted to find something to do for herself. So she started to dance Liu Gonghong with all the students. John Lula was beautiful and friendly, and she became the students' favorite teacher. Every time she taught, all of us would accompany her. It was very important to keep fit in extraordinary times. Although we have Aunt Zhang, a doctor in the infirmary, it is not so safe. The cabbage planted by my brother has sprouted. My mother found a pile of sprouted potatoes in the warehouse and threw them all into the soil to plant. The green leaves we stockpiled are almost finished. Some students are on the verge of collapse. They have not had a holiday for a month. Today, 2 boys started fighting. I had to work hard to separate them. They didn't even have a reason to fight. I announced a day off. There are no classes and no homework today. I found a sweet novel and asked the 2 fighting boys to read it with passion. Woman, you have successfully attracted my attention. Oh, no, please let me go. It's dawn, let Wang go bankrupt. The students laughed so hard that they fell down. It's good to be young. Nothing is taken to heart. They haven't seen their parents for almost a month. They also gave up and took the initiative to hand over their mobile phones to me. Class monitor Lin Yefei is a sunny boy. He was appointed as the temporary class monitor for excellent grades. There was also a female monitor, Liu Fengfei, who was very pretty. Although she was dull and taciturn, she had great prestige among her classmates. These 2 children were very good and would report something to me every day. Every day, there were girls who missed home and wanted to cry. There were also boys who were so hungry that they couldn't sleep. The half-grown children were always hungry. I started to give them the supermarket snacks I had stored. Milk, chocolate, wafer biscuits, and dried fruits. I set up a tea room, and as long as you behave well, you can exchange snacks. I can even make milk tea. On the first month and 9 days, the snow finally stopped, and the long-lost sun came out. The sun shone on the earth, and it was even colder. I knew the danger was coming. Once the snow stopped, those who were still alive would really come out to grab supplies. It is estimated that the supplies in the city have been robbed almost. Country people have the habit of hoarding supplies, and the north is used to making earthen cans, so they have a lot of wood, gas, and carbon stored in their own homes. No one from the surrounding villages came to disturb us this month, and everyone was probably staying at home all winter. My brother and brother Zhang have already started to secretly make trouble. It is said that they have set many traps around the school with the students, and the road at the school gate has been damaged by the explosives they made. I admire my mother, this little genius, who actually imported a large number of chemicals before the end of the world. At night, Lola and I were responsible for watching the students, and my parents, Uncle Zhang, Aunt Liu, my brother, and Brother Zhang began to work in 3 shifts on the tower to watch. 3 layers of cotton quilts were nailed to the walls of the tower, and Uncle Zhang put a coal stove up there, which was barely enough for people. Every day, everyone was nervous. The books I bought were becoming more and more useful. Every day, students chose the person who made the most mistakes and had the lowest test scores to read novels. From various online novels to world classics. Today's bedtime performance program is Romeo and Juliet. Students also fell in love with labor. In the past, everyone would complain about collecting garbage and cleaning toilets, but now everyone is rushing to work. The temperature outside is more than 40 degrees below zero. Students used to be reluctant to go out, but now they are rushing to wear winter clothes to go out. Students also spontaneously built a maze in the snow on the playground. As long as they are not studying, they can dig out anything they can play with. In this life, I rarely try to find out what is happening outside. When there are more people and things to do, I am not so scared. My concern for students seems to overcome the fear of the end of the world. I want to survive, and I want to live with them. We go to class, do homework, take exams, and exercise every day. As long as there is something to do, we are not afraid. This is the last piece of pure land, but disasters will still come. 1-2 on the 10th day after the snow stopped, my brother discovered danger while standing guard at the tower. He quickly contacted Brother Zhang with the intercom, and a large number of people gathered in the southeast corner of the school. My brother and all the boys went over. The students' young faces were full of determination. They were no longer children, and they were not completely ignorant of the outside world. I comforted the girls, asked my mother and Aunt Zhang to keep an eye on the girls, and I also ran to the southeast corner. A large group of people were bombing the school wall. Because the school gate was full of roadblocks and various traps, they chose the southeast corner for attack. The people outside were holding homemade explosives and had begun to attack in waves. Brother Zhang measured the wind direction, and then arranged for students to hold throwers and throw things outside in waves. What is this? Tear gas made by teacher Zhang. My brother took the little be used in class and shouted to the outside of the wall, "Listen, people outside, please stop your behavior immediately. Otherwise, we will use weapons of mass destruction." Do we have harmful weapons? Chlorine gas bombs, also made by teacher Zhang. How come you know everything? It's not that harmful. I made it in the laboratory with my students. Brother Zhang looked at me a little shy. Well, liberal arts students don't know anything. I don't even know where the door of the laboratory is. I have been standing next to Brother Zhang. The days are getting more and more peaceful. It feels exciting to make trouble occasionally. Recently, I have been focusing on my students and forgot to let Brother Zhang know that I am his girlfriend. Brother Zhang suddenly hugged me and hid in the bunker. "Anan, why are you in a daze? Do you know that it is dangerous here? Go back quickly." My brother yelled at the side. "I believe Brother Zhang, it's okay. I'll see if I can help here," I answered while dodging the rocks thrown from the wall. The end of the world in the countryside is really primitive. The guns that can be found are just homemade hunting guns, and the explosives that can be found are just homemade explosives for frying fish. Vermicelli, eggs, chicken feet, and meatballs I picked up from the corners. We washed vegetables together, cut meat together, and cooked noodles together. In the end, everyone was full. After eating noodles, everyone went to change clothes and took a hot bath. The school bathhouse is now open once a month, mainly because it is cold, and students are afraid that they will get cold if they take too many baths. After all, the bathhouse is old and the insulation is not good. After taking a bath, the monitor and a few girls suggested going to the tower to make a wish together, and I agreed. I took out all the apples I saved and gave them to the students to eat. If it weren't for this disaster, they would probably have taken the first mock exam. Today is probably Christmas Eve for everyone, and I guess I have to suppress them and not let them play. But now, it's good to be alive. But the first mock exam still has to be taken. As long as the test paper is difficult enough, they won't be sad about snail noodles. I was just daydreaming when a boy suddenly shouted that the teacher was coming. My brother quickly grabbed the telescope and took all the boys downstairs. Brother Zhang and Uncle Zhang also quickly went downstairs, and my mother and Lula quickly took the girls to find weapons. I took the telescope and looked into the distance, but it was too late. They drove a truck and an excavator. The road at the door was obviously blown up, and the heavy snow blocked the city and we couldn't drive. How could it be? It seems that these 2 months have pushed this group of villains to the limit. They can only attack us for supplies. These days they have made a perfect plan, and this time we can't escape. Amid the rumbling sound, the school gate was dug open by the excavator. Oh, I forgot that this construction team was once a demolition team. There is a bulldozer behind the excavator, and there is a truck behind the bulldozer. We don't know how many people are in the truck, and they probably won't get off easily. Our people quickly gathered together like last time, and several of us teachers quickly discussed the plan on the intercom. What should we do? We have nothing to fight against large machinery. There are a few cars in the garage. The key engine was dismantled by Brother Zhang to generate electricity. Teacher, we can blow up the excavator like Dong Sonroy. Can he be stronger than a tank? We don't have explosives. We have concentrated sulfuric acid. The students were arguing. Concentrated sulfuric acid has solidified. Brother Zhang said weakly, and the crowd was instantly quiet. 20 We can use nitric acid. I bought a lot of nitric acid. My mother said, and my brother rushed into the chemical laboratory with a few people. At this time, the door had been opened, and excavators, bulldozers, and large trucks drove in one after another. Conservatively speaking, we will all die tonight. The bulldozer led the way, and they drove the car to the teaching building. In the face of absolute power, all cleverness is futile, and the traps on the playground are useless. Those people came down fully armed, and wearing insulated shoes. My brother led people to spray unknown liquid at them with water guns, and the clothes of those people were corroded instantly. They pushed and shoved each other, and some people hid in the car directly and did not come out. My brother and students operated on the metal of the car, and a pungent smell came from below. After a while, they came down wearing thick raincoats and masks, and fought with my brother and others with muskets. A strange scene was born. A group of people holding primitive muskets and a group of people holding water guns were fighting there. Moreover, the school's water guns were used for stress relief during the water splashing festival before the junior high school entrance examination. Many of them were donated by students. There is no special feature, just that it can shoot far and there are many guns. We changed guns after shooting a few times and felt something was wrong. Lin Yufei's shooting skills were very powerful, and soon several villains were hit. They were at a disadvantage below, and it was difficult to find a good cover except for the car. The musket was also damaged by the acid on our side, and the curses were heard one after another. Finally, my brother took out the high-pressure water gun and operated it fiercely on them, and they were beaten and fled everywhere. They suppressed my brother with firepower, and my brother was also suppressed and unable to move. I saw from a distance that my brother's face was covered with blood, and I didn't know whether the injury was serious. Aqua Regia. Brother Zhang said sullenly. What? I was confused. As expected of your brother, he deserves Aqua Regia. My brother and Brother Zhang are classmates. They were the first and second in the grade at that time. They were quick-witted and sympathetic to each other. Soon our Aqua Regia was exhausted, and the people on their side dared to come out. Many people were injured, wailing and shouting at us, and a group of them took advantage of the chaos to break into the laboratory building. My brother and Lula attracted all the firepower, and we must support them. 21 The two girls who knew how to shoot arrows didn't dare to shoot after a long time of trying to shoot. I was so anxious that I wanted to rush over to attract attention. But the more than 20 people who stayed behind were not vegetarians. They all had guns. I don't know where they got so many guns. Yes, it's impossible to have so many guns unless they looted the troops. They are the only ones who attack the troops. It would be fine if the troops didn't attack them. Brother Zhang, do you think their guns look real? Brother Zhang took a look and understood what I meant in seconds. I don't know either. It's too far to see clearly. I have a way. I contacted my dad and asked him to let the pig in. The big fat pigs raised in the cafeteria should be slaughtered. We are going to eat the pig slaughtering dishes. After a while, a beautiful big fat pig pepper with crackling sparks on its tail rushed towards the crowd. Some people in the crowd fled and some shot, but they couldn't hit Pepper. After all, it was difficult to catch a crazy Pepper. After careful counting, only 2 people had guns. Some of the others could fire rubber bullets, and some could even sing. So they robbed a toy store. Thank the party, thank the country, and thank China's national conditions. This is easy. While they were being chased by the pigs, we surrounded them from 3 directions. 2 archery girls ran close and shot arrows at the gunmen. After all, they paid a lot of money to learn it. Although they didn't kill them with 1 arrow, they all hit them. The other boys were not to be outdone. They used slingshots and crossbows for free, and all the guns of these people fell. It was dark at night and there were many people. It was not easy to pick up the guns that fell, especially when Pepper was still running around. We were also very nervous, afraid that the pigs would hit us. Some of us fought with them, but fortunately, plastic bullets don't hurt people. Fortunately, their guns were gone, and they didn't pick them up. After a while, I stepped on a gun and realized why they didn't pick it up. It was frozen to the ground. Everyone was dressed like a big ball, chasing each other on the grass. The taekwondo students kicked them down and knocked them out, but it was difficult to lift their feet because they were wearing too thick clothes. I held the electric baton and stabbed people everywhere, and they were also frantically grabbing our electric batons. Fortunately, we knocked them down with the electric batons in the end, and Paige was exhausted. Many students were also injured. I sent people to carry them to Aunt Leo, comforted them simply, and then hurried to the laboratory building. There was a sour smell everywhere in the laboratory building. No, this smell was wrong. Why do I feel like the smell of snail noodles? A good end of the world firefighting article was turned into a biological weapons war by my brother. Science and engineering men are really scary. When we rushed upstairs, only 2 people were making the final struggle. Several students were scratched. And some were accidentally injured by aqua regia, but fortunately the injuries were not serious. Finally, the two of them showed their full-body bombs and tried to die with us. My brother took a modified wolf whip and speared them all out. A big hole was blown out in the playground, and many people who were electrocuted were killed by the two of them. Although it was cold and we were not afraid of the bodies stinking, it was too disgusting to look at, so we had to burn them with gasoline. The gate could not be repaired. We simply blocked the gate with their cars. This time, the students were obviously more receptive, probably because they were injured and had no time to care about the psychological trauma. The snail noodles we ate tonight were wasted. Our school was also ruined beyond recognition. Fortunately, my brother was smart enough to sprinkle aqua regia at the beginning. The high-pressure water gun later sprayed snail noodle soup with Indian red peppers. That stuff was spicy and smelly. It must have been hot when sprayed on the dry, chapped, frostbitten face, and it was even more sour when sprayed into the eyes. They were scared to death by the aqua regia and had no idea what the dirty water on their bodies was. When it came to close combat, the students carried backpacks with water guns, some of which were diluted corrosive liquids, and all kinds of strong acids and alkalis were used. The most barbaric method that can be thought of is throwing stones at each other. Brother John threw the chlorine bomb while the outsiders were not paying attention, and then asked the students to hide in the upwind. The students ran very fast, and soon there was no sound outside. We went back in high spirits. Dad, are we powerful? Old Jan, hurry up and implement Plan B. What's wrong? What's going on? We still have Plan B. Brother Jan and I looked at each other and nodded. Brother Jan said, this time they should be testing and not using all their strength. If I'm not mistaken, there will definitely be a large force attacking later. My brother added, the poison gas bombs you made are not very effective. If you throw them out and they scatter, nothing will happen. What they did should be to lower our guard. If I'm not mistaken, this group of people is Lao Wang's construction team. As for who is behind them, it's hard to say. Anyway, it's a smart one. We just saw through the telescope that they were pretending to be perfunctory outside. They built the wall, and they must know where to dismantle it fastest. The most important thing is that they have detonators. My father looked heavy. The situation is not optimistic. If this continues, we will definitely die. 1-3 and Anne, you and Lala go to watch the class, and the others will have a meeting. Dad gave me orders. Dad, I won't leave. Let's go together. Call the students too. It's not reliable to let them study in the ivory tower under such circumstances. We can't take care of them forever. I retorted. Be good and listen to your father. Brother John touched my head. I knew he didn't want me to be in danger. Dong dong dong, someone knocked on the door. When the door was opened, all the students were outside. Teacher, can you tell us what's going on outside? The students talked in a flurry, their eyes determined. Forget it, let's go to the classroom. Dad waved his hand helplessly. 5 minutes later, everyone was sitting in the classroom, looking heavy-faced. Dad was on the podium, and for the first time ever, he didn't have any opening remarks, and went straight to the point. Conservatively speaking, they will attack at the latest at 2 a.m. tonight. Our tear gas and poison gas bombs have had a certain deterrent effect on them. But it doesn't work much, they will definitely attack us when we are sleeping the most. What are you afraid of? Don't care about life and death. If you don't agree, just fight. Lin Yofei shouted loudly, and a group of boys followed suit. It's good to be young, stupid. Fight, how to fight? My father was very angry and shouted at the boys, you are sacrificing in vain. Stop arguing, saving your life is important. Uncle Jan came out to mediate. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon now. We have to find a solution quickly. Listen to me, all of you. I cleared my throat. We can't lie flat now, and we've had enough of lying. We have to find a solution next. We think they are scary. They have detonators, which may blow up our walls. They have earth guns and weapons. They may be stronger than us. But we are not without advantages. I pulled over the whiteboard and started writing on the blackboard. First of all, we have the advantage of playing at home. The wall outside is like the Great Wall. If the nomads come in, once they go deep into the interior, we can make them never return. Interesting, how can they never return? My father asked from below. We can catch the turtle in the jar. We can completely block the exit with electric fences. The school is our home ground. Once the enemy's numbers and weapons are superior to ours, we will be very passive. Today, we will observe 5 people first, but the engineering team has at least 20 people. It is difficult for us to judge whether they are colluding with others. It seems unlikely that we will win. This is what I will talk about next: the double duck tactics. We have explosion-proof shields, which are enough to resist. With the control of firearms in our motherland, I bet they don't have real guns. If they really have weapons of mass destruction, it would be more worthwhile to attack Walmart and Sam's than us. And we have enough luxury steel forks that can be transformed into wolf whips to separate the enemy, suitable for long-range attacks. For close-range attacks, we have electric batons, and various spring knives, machetes, and brass knives that I confiscated from students before. Even the 3-edged bayonets are in the academic affairs office. Girls can use tear gas and poison gas bombs, and we also have a dry powder fire extinguisher. White phosphorus, sodium, etc. can also be used as items to interfere with the enemy and can also kill the enemy. Stab-proof clothing and large pot lids can serve as small shields. The most annoying thing is that we don't have long-range musketeers. We really have this. Brother Zhang, who had been dull, spoke. You made the gun. I looked excited. That's not true. Our school has an archery club. We spent a lot of money to buy arrows. After they are sharpened, they are still very lethal. And we also have crossbows and slingshots. There are anesthetics in the infirmary and poisons in the laboratory. Teacher, we are national second-level archery athletes. The two girls stood up timidly. I was so happy that I almost jumped up. I forgot that we, second-level athletes, got extra points in the high school entrance examination. Our parents spent a lot of money on this. Teacher, we have been practicing taekwondo since we were young. Another 5 students stood up. The more I talked, the more excited I found that this group of students was really talented. After all, they were born in the 2000s, and more skills are better. The last few students who studied piano and art were also eager to try. Things were no longer under my control. Everyone, be quiet. Let's choose our own positions and form our own groups. There were a few big guys in the class who surrounded me and asked me to explain the Mandarin duck tactics to them again. Oh, I must have been distracted just now. The monitor pushed them all away, pulled over the whiteboard and wrote tank, mage, warrior, shooter, assassin, support. Now, the students all understood. One for my dad and Uncle Zhang had served in the army, and my brother and brother Zhang were the main laborers. They took 10 people each, and I followed brother Zhang, and Lula followed my brother. The 2 girls who could shoot arrows were taken away by my dad and Uncle Zhang, and my mom and Aunt Liu were in the monitoring room and the tower to take charge of the overall situation. The Bluetooth headset intercom in the security room was finally going to play a big role. Uncle Zhang had already turned on the electricity of the whole school and connected it to the monitoring. Everyone went to prepare, and at this time the students were both nervous and excited, afraid that they would come and afraid that they would not come. We divided the sphere of influence from 4 corners, began to set traps in our own territory, and led the students to formulate tactics. Later, the 4 teams visited each other to prevent accidental injury by mistake if they entered other people's territory. It was dark, today was the 15th day, and the moonlight was so bright. It was not a dark and windy night, but it was a day for murder and arson. Fortunately, there was snow everywhere in the school, and the water poured on the wall had frozen into a thick layer of ice, so it was not easy for them to attack with fire. Everyone, pay attention, someone is approaching. From the northeast corner. The northeast corner is really not a good choice. From the northeast corner, you have to pass through a 400-meter playground, and the things on the playground alone are enough for them to bear. There was a loud bang, and a hole was pierced in the northeast corner. I have to say that the quality of our school is really good. After all, it was designed and supervised by my father's students, and there was no cutting corners. I led everyone to place mousetraps on the playground, and also dug various small traps, which were filled with various ice edges, sharpened steel, bars, and mouse sticky boards. These are not very harmful, mainly to shake the morale of the army. If the toad doesn't bite you, I will disgust you. As a result, they didn't walk a few steps before someone was hit, and then the group of people quickly moved closer and walked forward cautiously. After walking a few steps, several people fell into the big pit that my brother dug to build an ecological park. I laid a thin layer of composite wood on the pit, and used wood as support underneath. The thinner it got, the thinner it became. Then I covered it with a thin layer of snow. If it was daytime, I could see the floor at a glance, but at night, I was really grateful for the dim night light. It might be okay for one person to stand on it, but if a group of people stood here, they would definitely fall down. Fortunately, this group of people stood tightly enough. A group of 5 people fell down one by one. There were steel bars all over the ground, and these people died before they could accomplish their mission. With screams, our people quickly rushed over and threw stones and sand into it. The big pit, more than 3 meters deep, instantly became their grave. One person at the back was lucky enough not to fall in. He ran back in panic and ran into the hole sealed with thin copper wire by Uncle Zhao, who was ambushing in the southeast corner. The high-voltage electricity connected to the copper wire instantly electrocuted the people to death. For a while, the playground was filled with the smell of blood and burnt human flesh. 15 after doing all this, we returned to the art building and all of us took a deep breath. This was our first time killing someone. This was a chaotic world, and we all knew that we couldn't be saints. We could even hear their groans when we poured sand down. But we still moved quickly. We were also afraid, and we were even more afraid after we finished. Some girls even cried loudly after they came back. I made a silent gesture. I didn't have time to comfort them. They could only be strong on their own. The war was not over yet. Then the second wave of people came. From a distance, I saw them using wooden sticks to pick up the copper wires, holding iron shovels, and drawing big circles step by step to test. There were more than 30 people coming in this time. They walked across the playground towards us. Obviously, they were colder-blooded than the first wave of people, and even stepped on the burial site of the first wave of people to come to the teaching building. They divided into 3 groups and entered the art building, the laboratory building, and the teaching building. It seemed that they were preparing to sweep up the supplies. There were obviously more people coming to the art building. They probably saw us just now and came for us. I quickly retreated upstairs with the students, and Aunt Leo reported in real time on the surveillance. Thanks to those students who were looking for places to smoke, fight, and fall in love everywhere. Otherwise, how could the school's surveillance cover such a wide range? As soon as they entered the hall of the teaching building, the piano in the middle started playing scary music. There was a high-quality Bluetooth speaker hidden in the piano, which added a bit of desolation to the silent night sky. They were instantly frightened and screamed and fled around, hitting the ropes around them. One after another, sandbags with ghost faces fell from the sky and beat them black and blue. The leader had to fire shots at the surroundings to make them barely quiet down, but he accidentally injured 2 people. The piano was still playing disgusting music, and they really couldn't stand it, so they just shot at the piano. The guns were all out of bullets, but the piano was still playing. Some people couldn't stand it and ran out. They were quickly killed by the boys who were ambushing outside. As for whether they were knocked unconscious or killed, I didn't care. Finally, the Bluetooth speaker finally stopped the music. The girl who was studying dubbing said in a ghostly voice, "Come on, come and accompany me." A hanged ghost made of a dummy fell from the sky, filled with white phosphorus. It quickly ignited as it landed, and the sudden ghost fire made the enemy flee again. The leader also collapsed. It was estimated that he had not eaten well and slept well recently. His spirit was obviously not good. In addition, he had done too many bad things and was afraid of ghosts knocking on the door. He yelled hysterically and asked us to come out. I felt a little sympathetic to him. This group of people didn't read much, obviously didn't have the blessing of materialism, and actually believed in monsters. They were running around the teaching building frantically, and we defeated them one by one with the help of Aunt Leo and my mother's surveillance. Some of them were knocked unconscious by us and thrown to the playground, some were knocked unconscious by our taekwondo classmates and thrown to the playground, and some were tripped by our devices and rolled down the stairs. They ran for a long time but didn't see any of us. They kept shooting with guns and screaming. It was really a headache. It was more than 40 degrees below zero, and they fainted in the snow. The students were worried and poured water on them with high-pressure water guns before carrying them out. They would probably freeze to death in a while. We really didn't want to kill them ourselves, but they were all ruthless and didn't talk much. 16 Soon my dad solved the problem, and a group of people were led to the cafeteria, ate the braised pork buns prepared by my mother, and then went to report to the king of hell. It was just that the process of throwing people out of the school was more tiring. Uncle Zhao's side is full of technology and hard work. Don't mess with the electrician, they will all be electrocuted. Dancing the same dance at the same time and place, going to death together. Although I have always avoided seeing blood and avoiding killing directly. But our hands are still stained with blood. After dawn, we threw the bodies of more than 30 people into the wild outside and led the students to repair the cracks caused by the explosion. Fortunately, there is still a lot of cement, sand, and bricks in the school. Brother Zheng and Uncle Zhao studied for a long time before they finished it. We repaired it ugly, and the hole seemed to be laughing at us and devouring our conscience. My brother set traps around the hole and led the students to familiarize themselves with each trap. If one of us fell into the trap, it would not be a joke. We simply restricted the students' activities. 1-7 It has been almost 2 months, and the students' eyes are getting less and less bright. I found all the psychology books in the library. I suddenly regretted not studying psychology well in college. I led students to psychological counseling over and over again, trying to make the class more interesting. The boring life and the collapse of order, I am afraid that the students will collapse. Most of the water pipes in the school are frozen, and transporting water every day is a big deal. The toilet bowl was also frozen, so we had to use the most primitive method. Students used a lot of hot water to unclog the toilet every day, and finally had to add a radiator in the toilet. Now, many students like to hide in the toilet because it is the warmest. Fortunately, the water pump can still operate, and the groundwater is pumped up to meet the students' daily washing. The students have not contacted the outside world for 3 months, and they are getting more and more homesick. There is no way, I can only take them to write letters, write down what they want to say. Every day, write to their parents, write to their grandparents, and some people even write to their favorite stars. I took the students to take the midterm exam, I put some water in the test paper, and the students did very well. If they do well in the test, they are allowed to watch all kinds of movies and variety shows. Now, these are the only happiness they can give them. The monitor took a few boys to practice with the guns of the last invaders, but when they were practicing, they suddenly remembered that bullets are non-renewable resources, so they had to give up. Everyone turned around to practice archery and slingshots. Several students who knew taekwondo also took the whole class to practice taekwondo. Lula was actually a sandar expert. Lula said that he learned it because he was bullied in college. These students are very athletic and are great at learning. Only I gave up after practicing twice because I was afraid that I would fall to my death. The students were very well behaved. They seemed to grow up in a day and no longer complained about the bad food and not having enough food. The eggs were all eaten up. The eggs were replaced with the braised eggs I stockpiled every day. There were no more vegetables. The cabbage in the vegetable garden became a rare delicacy every day. Fortunately, there was enough rice and flour, and many vegetables were replaced with canned food. I still stocked up on milk, which was enough for us to last for 2 or 3 months. 18 As supplies became scarce, students became more and more restless. I had no choice but to take them to raise chickens, pigs, and grow vegetables. Students even named each animal and plant, and prayed for them when eating. I don't know how this became popular. I'm really worried that their psychological problems are getting worse. This is the 5th month of the severe cold outbreak. The severe cold has reached an unprecedented level. December is the coldest month, and we can no longer do any outdoor sports. Fortunately, there is enough coal. I'm really worried that the coal will run out, but our ice age has not passed. More and more students are sick, and many students have colds and fevers. I quickly isolated these students, and Aunt Leo took care of them. Fortunately, no one developed pneumonia. It can be seen that regular exercise is really important. Students' daily diet must be guaranteed. Fruits are really not enough. Canned fruit and vitamins have become the last savior. I stocked up a lot of health products before the epidemic, including birds' nests, sea cucumbers, fish maws, and cod liver oil. No matter if it's just an IQ tax, I stewed and diluted them all for them to eat, hoping to improve their immunity. My mother was even more amazing. She stocked up a lot of peanuts, sesame seeds, soybeans, and red dates. The WeChat health regimen quickly spread among the students. Every day, all kinds of health porridge made the students' faces red. What gives me the most headache now is sanitary napkins. At that time, I thought that only Lala and I needed them, so I only stocked up 10 boxes, which is almost the amount I need for 10 years. But later, when I had students, I thought of everything and forgot to replenish sanitary napkins. Fortunately, there were still some stocks in the supermarket, but now everyone has used them up. Several of us women had to make sanitary napkins together. We dismantled several quilts to find some cotton and sewed them together after high-temperature disinfection. We also found a way to get a bunch of wood ash, which will be used in the future. Christmas is here. I cooked the last snail noodles. The chickens can lay eggs now. I made fried eggs and made a deluxe version of snail noodles for each student. Even my mother, who never eats it, served a bowl of snail noodles with noodles. Some were high-pressure water guns that sprayed snail noodle soup. Many of these people were scared to death by themselves. This snail noodle was well used. Everything was over. This group of thugs should have come out in full force this time. All the local hooligans nearby were killed by us. We don't want to do anything now, we just want to take a shower and go to bed. 23 Suddenly a child ran out of the truck and shouted teacher at me. I looked closely and found that it was Liu Xiang, the female monitor of my former class. This child's home is in the town, and it is estimated that he was kidnapped by this group of people. Poor child, you see how pitiful he is crying and shouting, but he has found an organization. But before the child touched me, he was blocked by Brother Zhao with a wolf whisk. Brother Zhang quickly pressed her against the wall, and she immediately took out her gun and shot Brother Zhao. Lin Yufei also quickly took out his gun and fired back. Everything happened in an instant, and we were all stunned. Why? Why do you do this? Have I been bad to you? Why do you want to retaliate against me? I screamed hysterically. Why? Why don't you come out to save me? Why are you all living so well? Why don't you leave me behind? Do you know what I went through outside? Child, you led these people here, didn't you? I said, how did they know we had supplies here? My brother looked at him and said with gritted teeth, Principal Grandpa, you can obviously save us, but you drove us all away. Are you really that kind? Don't you feel guilty in your heart? Grandpa, I'm in so much pain, I'm going to die. I don't want to live anymore. You said I would get into a good university. But I don't have a chance. Grandpa. The child died before he finished speaking. My dad knelt in front of her for a long time and didn't want to get up. Many girls have a good relationship with her. Everyone gathered around her and started crying. She was once a simple little girl who had always loved this school, but today she brought people to destroy this school. Brother Zhang was the most seriously injured among all the people. Fortunately, Brother Zhao wore a stab-proof suit, and the bullet grazed his left shoulder but did not hit the vital part. Aunt Liu stopped the bleeding for Brother Zhang urgently. There must be sequelae, but there is no way at this stage. No one can escape from this war unscathed. My father refused our comfort, saying that he had nothing he could not get through in his lifetime. Brother Zhang needed someone to take care of him, so I took the initiative to take him over. There was no romantic feeling between men and women. At this stage, only I could do it. 2-4 Winter has gone and spring has come. The weather has gradually warmed up, and the sun has been shining for longer and longer. I thought the government would come and gradually restore order, but there was no news at all. I was very anxious, but I didn't know what to do. There was enough rice and flour, but other things were getting less and less, although the ecological park had a supply of vegetables and fruits. But it was a drop in the bucket. No one has disturbed us for a long time. Is there no one alive outside? Finally one day, everyone collapsed, and the squad leader Lin Yufei insisted on going out. Yufei is a good child, and he is very brave in every attack. The child's file records that both parents are in the army, and they have received some training to a certain extent. He is very good at military boxing. After the first attack, he led other students to practice fiercely. Many times, everyone thinks that we, as teachers, suppress students from rebellion. In fact, many students listen to Yifei. The boys' private fights are all solved by Yifei, and they don't bother me at all. Now, even Yifei can't stand it and wants to go out. I don't have the energy to comfort them. I have collapsed, and I still can't save them. Yifei told me again and again that someone will come to save us. We must go out to see what it is like outside. We must be full of hope for the country. In the end, my father agreed because Lila was pregnant. Even with Aunt Leo, there is no guarantee that Lila can give birth to a healthy child. Lila vomited so much that he couldn't eat anything. My brother was scared to death every day. Uncle Jan repaired the truck and drove everyone out of the school. It was spring, everything was revived, and the temperature rose a lot. The temperature outside was about -10 degrees Celsius. At this time of year in previous years, I would have put on a beautiful little skirt. I wrapped my jacket around me, and my down jacket outside was so dirty that I couldn't see the color. Fortunately, we are in the north, and we have bought a lot of such big cotton jackets. Lola wrapped my mother's most precious mink, and his little face was sallow from vomiting. All the children had firm eyes. After so much, they were no longer children. No one dared to open the curtain to see what the outside looked like. 2-5 from the school to the town, it was a mess, and there was no living person to be seen. Many young people went out to work. There were relatively few people in the town, and most of them were left behind elderly people and children. The thugs we killed were construction workers we recruited. They were not local residents at all. They were entangled with a bunch of hooligans and committed crimes. Before attacking us, they probably had already bloodbathed the town. There are several remote villages nearby, but we don't want to go there for the time being. We drove to the city. When we arrived at the toll station, we entered the city. Uncle John suddenly found that many PLA soldiers gathered at the toll station. The government finally came to rescue us. But when the car stopped, the students were so happy that they waved desperately at the toll station. But the PLA soldiers on the opposite side waved desperately at us, holding a loudspeaker and shouting something. A strange scene happened. We couldn't hear what they said. I quickly called the two people who jumped out of the car and ran to the front first, and they also found it. The leading boy was Wu Yaoye, the former sports committee member. He picked up a stone on the ground and threw it forward. The stone suddenly stopped slowly in front of the toll station and fell down. I walked forward with the wolf whisk, and I couldn't move forward anymore when I walked to the toll station. This is an invisible wall. We can't move forward whether we go left or right. A large screen was brought from the opposite side, and text was displayed on the screen. Hello, please stay calm. You are surrounded by an unknown force. You can't get through from top to bottom. Human power cannot break through at this stage. Our voices can't get through. Order has been restored outside. Please don't be afraid. The party and the government will not give up on you. At this moment, almost everyone cried with their heads in their hands. The world abandoned us, but the world did not abandon us. 26. Ling Yifei walked to the front and wrote desperately at the man in front. The man in front suddenly picked up the walkie-talkie and operated it. After a while, a helicopter came over. A man who looked very similar to Yufei walked to the front and looked at the child speechlessly. Dad. Yufei hadn't cried for so long, and at this moment the child couldn't help crying. The man gave the child a thumbs up. Maybe our communication doesn't need language. Later, our life became calmer, and we pulled the school's big screen to the toll station. Electric wires were pulled from nearby houses, and the school's diesel generator was also pulled nearby. The two sides basically communicated on the big screen. We drove around the entire area and found some survivors in remote areas. The temperature was getting higher and higher, and the nearby farmers began to teach us how to farm. Lola's belly was getting bigger and bigger. Lola's parents also came from other places and lived nearby, coming to visit every day. Fortunately, they contracted an orchard in the southern mountainous area. Because it was remote enough, they survived by chopping firewood. Many parents of students also came, and many parents of students never came again. Every day, some people were happy and some were sad. Fortunately, we finally have a professional psychologist now. The government sent people to stay here and provide us with a lot of help every day. We took the students to work and farm during the day, and we continued to review at night. The high school entrance examination will continue, and we all have a bright future. The most worrying thing is Lela. Uncle Zhang started the backup power supply of the town hospital, and Aunt Leo stumbled to use the ultrasound with the help of professionals. Outside. Lela's child is very healthy, and she is a beautiful girl like Lela.it. Has been 6 months, and Lela's morning sickness has completely healed. The little girl loves beauty. She worries every day whether she will have stretch marks. The old woman in the village happily boils egg oil for her. Now, we are free from eggs. The ice and snow have begun to melt. This ghost weather expert gave a lot of explanations, such as sunspots, asteroids, and ice ages, but I am not interested in them. Anyway, the high school entrance examination will not be held. I have contacted experts to make a plan for these students to take the high school entrance examination. They will definitely take the high school entrance examination next year. 27. Winter is coming again. We are short of charcoal. We have picked up all the firewood on the mountain. We have stored all kinds of corn stalks, wheat stalks, etc., and the school has little coal. But we are not afraid. We are all united and believe that we will get through this winter. As a result, this winter is not so cold. Our northern city has actually had a warm winter. I took the students to review and hibernate during the winter. Everyone lives near the school and comes to school every day to attend classes, dance, or do some work within their ability. My mother formed a square dance group, and we stood on the screen at the toll station and played our dancing videos non-stop. We wanted to tell our relatives outside that we were fine. It was really inconvenient without the internet. Lola was about to give birth, and everyone was extremely nervous. The doctor was on call outside at any time, and the old woman who had been a midwife in the village also came to help tremblingly. Fortunately, Lola has always liked sports, and the child is also a good child who loves his mother. Lola basically didn't suffer, and was born in 3 hours. The aunt in the village kept comforting my father and said, "Your daughter-in-law has a big butt, and it will not be difficult to give birth at a glance. Take a break, and you can have a second child next year. If you have 2 in 3 years, we will take care of them for you." In a closed life, everyone needs a new life. After the full month, we carefully wrapped the child and took him to the toll station in an ambulance. Lola just came out of the confinement period, and we want to show Lola's parents the child and Lola. They missed their grandson so much that they watched him through the screen for a month. The 2 old people cried and laughed when they saw him smacking his lips at them. They bought a bunch of toys and clothes, but they didn't know how to give them to the child, so they could only put them aside for the child to see. Everyone was so happy. The child was called Si Wang, and her nickname was Xixi. She was the continuation of life and our hope. We all have to live. The little duck bought by Grandma was walking clumsily outside, and suddenly I heard noisy music. I looked ahead in disbelief, and many people heard the noise coming from there. The duck was still walking, passing through the invisible wall and coming to our side, stopping at Lola's feet. Everyone was stunned, and I quickly stabbed the peach branch to the opposite side, and the peach branch passed without any hindrance. Ling Yofei's hand reached to the opposite side, and was pulled into his arms by his father. Lola's parents ran over quickly to hug Lola. Everyone saw the person they had dreamed of. Everything is over. I turned back to find Brother Zhao, who was also looking at me. Spring is coming again.